welcome to another edition of Action 14. I'm Mike Briggs, bringing you information from the school, from the city, and from the arts. I'm starting out tonight with Mayor Pullman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. It's always a pleasure to be here with our TV 14 viewing audience.
We've had some people looking at our houses over the last couple months, and they've given you some numbers, and you've had some arguments and some discussions, and everything's kind of settling out.
It is settling down, up, and basically I think the reval went very well. Everybody's property went up 30%, some maybe 35%, and that's across the board. So I think that it's safe to say that everybody went up 30%, and the base value of the city went up 30%. So we all kind of went up even, and October 6th, we had the appraiser that did the reval out of Appleton, came up with 5 appraisers to answer any questions of city residents that maybe have some question of how they arrived at some of the different numbers. And, you know, of course, the shock is, well, if my property value went up 30%, my taxes are going up 30%. And the answer is no.
Right.
That's
no.
a very simple answer.
If everybody's property went up the same amount, nothing changes at all.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that that's the important way to look at it. They did have about 50 property owners that came in, talked to them, asked them questions. They looked at comparables. We all know in the city there's a house that's just like mine, and it's over there. And what was that valued at? So, of course, we have pictures of every single property in the city, square footage, a whole bunch of comparables. And the assessors pulled out those comparables. Other people asked questions and said, okay, here's a similar property just like yours. Picture to sit, you know, put them side by each. Yeah, that really looks like my house. Gee, that was closer than I thought. And so they had a good discussion, and out of about 50, 49 were satisfied.
Okay.
One said that he didn't think it was quite right, and then the assessor said, you know, gave him a checklist how to question the appraisal and appeal it, and the process in doing that. So overall, I think it really came out very well, and the entire city is a recalculation. Only the 4 taxing authorities, Plymouth High School, Lakeshore Technical College, the city and the county, can impose taxes. The appraiser simply does the valuation of the property, and then it goes through a mathematical calculation. So only the taxing authorities can raise the taxes, and I would expect probably all of our taxes proportionately to go up 1 or 2%. And I say that because just like everybody's budget at home and costs of living, we have been hit in the city the same way. We have the same costs as a household does, basically. Our employee costs are actually up 3%. So the 1 or 2% is a real tight nut to crack here, and we're working hard on that. But I do think that we'll be able to stay within that 1 or 2% margin.
Okay.
And for all intents and purposes, everybody is staying the same. A little bit more, but we don't know that answer because we don't have the school number yet. We don't have the city number yet. LTC will be adopting that one this week, and I'm on that board. And then the county will be later this month. So By the end of the month, we'll know where we are, but right now, I expect everybody to come in 1 or 2% higher.
And you should expect some of that because heating costs have gone up for the school, for everyone.
Oh, and the gasoline.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have vehicles at home. We know what we paid for a tank of gas. I filled up today, and I don't want to tell you how much I paid because it was ridiculous.
Yes.
But that's just the nature of the beast. So inflation has hit us all, and unfortunately, you know, we pass some of that on to the property owners. I will say we're trying to keep it as a bare bones minimum, trying not to make that a permanent base increase. So we'll see how it goes. But I think overall it's a good measure for the city, and it shows that we are definitely growing in not only people and business, manufacturing. We want people to live here, have their kids go to good schools and good jobs. Those are all good things. And the more base you work with, the less we all go up eventually. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about something that has just occurred. We had well over a foot of snow just north of here, and have a cold middle of October. It makes you wonder, how are we doing in the city there? Getting ready for the winter? Are you on board?
We're ready. I went down and visited the garage last week, and everybody is really, I don't want to say excited, because how do you get excited about snow? They're in the mood. They're in the fall mood, getting things ready. And it does take a lot of preparation because they have to make sure everything is working properly. We do have two new pieces of equipment that came on board last year, and that makes their job easier. We have a full staff. We don't have any missing employees due to COVID and things like that that we've had to work around, just like the school for a couple of years.
Yep.
And that makes a difference as well. So we're getting things lined up, and we're ready. I would say snow's 30 days away, but don't quote me on that.
Well,
It'll get here soon enough.
Winter starts December 21st.
That's right.
And we've had a taste of winter already in the middle of October.
Yeah, we don't have to shovel cold. It's just that we know what's coming next. Yeah.
But I keep telling everybody, but we don't have hurricanes.
Yep.
We don't have the flooding we've seen.
Oh.
So I'll put on an extra coat.
I definitely appreciate the pattern that we have here. And, you know, the 4 seasons plus construction season, we can tolerate that. We don't have all those things that they have on both coasts and down in the Gulf. That's something we don't have to have.
Well, let's talk about some good things coming. You're telling me that we're going to be a very happy school district in 2025.
That's
you already know that.
We already know that. The funny thing about math is it never lies. And 3 years ago, when we sat down and did some calculations on our closing TIF 4, and we had to make an election under state law, we extended that 2 years intentionally in order to pay some additional expenses that came in, and at the same time to have some reserve in case we had a problem. We learned just last Tuesday night that the city will have a windfall of $500,000.
That's at the end of 2024.
24 paid out in 25. Now, that's good news because our TIF 4 is projected to have a surplus of about 2.5 million. And we share that surplus with the 2 taxing districts, high school and LTC, and the county and the city. We already know our share is about $500,000. The Plymouth High School share will be in the neighborhood of $750,000. So that's a nice news, chunk of change that has no strings attached to it, so the school district can use that in its budget process for whatever it feels it wants to do, and it doesn't affect its tax levy. So it's a very one-time thing designed to benefit through the TIF law when things are settled, that payouts go to the taxing authorities. And in the meantime, and we have, you can look out past Highway 57, east of that on PP and down to Willow, you can see an awful lot of new construction over the last 20 years. Aurora Medical is also part of that TIF district. So it's been a very successful TIF, and we're very pleased that it came out even better than we had projected, and now we can project those rebates to the different authorities. So it's a one-time thing, but in a few more years, we'll have TIF 5 closing, and I hope that one's as successful.
Yeah.
That'll pay for a lot of something that we don't know what it is yet, but yeah, it's probably the most successful TIF that I can imagine and hear about. I go all over the state and talk to different mayors, and they would love to have a piece of that change. So we're very fortunate. It came out, I'm going to say, planned to work, and it did work.
Yes, so in 2025, the city of Plymouth will get $500,000, and the Plymouth School District will get $750,000.
Yeah, in that neighborhood, yeah. Depends on the final calculation, but that's a nice ballpark number to
And there's very few things that can change that number right now.
I would say the only thing that could change it would be some unknown expenses that were still in the pipeline that we might, if we guess wrong on something, $50,000, that'll affect both of our districts, maybe 10.
Yes.
Because we share that. So I don't expect it to really substantially change. That's a nice number to have in the bank. And I'm sure that the administrator will be tickled pink, and Dan will like it too.
Yes.
So.
Well, let's talk budget. The city has to have the budget just finalized here, coming up just like the school district.
Right, and we're working on that. We'll have a presentation next week, and then we have to publish it for 2 weeks. The first meeting, the second Tuesday in November, which is the first meeting, will be our public hearing where people can come in and ask questions, much like the school board has their public hearing.
Yes.
And it'll be published ahead of time. People can ask questions of our administrator, and if they have any particular questions they want to know more about, we have the book there, and he can go through that with them. But all in all, the budget is really coming together real well, and I don't want to say I'm glad it's only 1 or 2%, because any raise is a raise, but I do think it'll come in between 1 and 2% increase, and we're just in an inflationary period. We can't. We still have to function as a city, and we don't want to decrease services in any way. So we're thinking that we're in pretty good shape on that.
Good. How are we doing with in good shape with a new police chief? We've waited now
since May.
Yes, yes, a long time.
And it's already October. November 7th is the final date that applicants can submit their application for going through a company called HR.gov, which is the same one that we hired to do our city administrator search. So we're looking for certainly candidates in the area and out of the area. They have quite a large pool that they draw from. So we feel that we're going to have a very good group to have the Fire and Police Commission go through and analyze. The service will narrow it down to probably a half dozen for the Fire and Police Commission to do their job, rather than have the Fire and Police Commission, say, review 30 or 40 applicants. The qualifications that are in the request for submissions, it's on our website. It is very detailed because it is the chief position and they're looking for training and education, experience. So there's a lot that goes into that. And all of those backgrounds will be checked before it comes to the Fire and Police Commission. That's a decision that the Fire and Police Commission make, not the mayor, not the common council. So it's the discretion of those 5 members to bring forward a name. And I like to jokingly say the only thing I get to do is sign the check.
Okay.
So, but we're hoping that we can have the chief on board probably in January.
Okay.
Because there's always a 1-month delay in procurement. There's another 1 month giving notice to leave. So that'll put it, let's call it February 1st would be a nice date. And then we'll be back up to speed, which is what we're looking for.
All right.
Yeah.
Last item I want to bring up is the fact that I went to Madison last weekend, and they're getting close, but there's a ways to go yet before I get to Fond du Lac on 23. They still are moving me around a little bit, but it's getting close.
It's getting very close, and we're very pleased. We had a ceremonial ribbon cutting with the governor a week ago, and that was well attended and appreciated. They're still, say November 1st. They want to get this all in. Now they won't have the grass and the sod and all that stuff in because they have to wait till spring for that. But they are planning right now to have all of the roadway asphalt in, striped, signs up. So we're looking at the first week in November, and that would be a good thing because we don't need slippery roads weaving in and out.
Right.
So they're moving along. It's really quite amazing. And, they got a couple weeks here. The weather isn't going to be cold forever, and they can lay a lot of asphalt real quick if the weather cooperates. So, yeah, I would say before the middle of November.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll have 4 lanes all the way to Fond du
All
Lac,
the way.
which is going to help Plymouth.
It will, and that has been a good signal. We've had a lot of inquiries because now we're literally at the crossroads, and you get traffic count, you get business location.
That's right.
And we are getting those calls, both business, retail, and restaurants. So we're very excited about it, and it's been a long time coming, for some over 20 years, and we're finally getting to that point. So it's a good feeling, a lot of cooperation to get it done, very expensive when it's all said and done, but it does give us an east-west that is badly needed.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for being on. I want to mention to everybody that be part of what's happening in the city council has their meetings the 2nd and last Tuesday of the month, starting at 7:30.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Yep.
Starting at 7 o'clock down at City Hall, the 2nd and last Tuesday of every month.
Correct.
Be part of what's happening in the city And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good, thank
Okay.
you.
When we come back, I'm hoping to have Donna Hahn here to talk a little bit about what's happening in the world of arts in the Plymouth area. Stay right with us. You're watching Action 14. Welcome back to Action 14. I have with me now Donna Hahn. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike.
Everything's happening at the Arts Center this fall, isn't it?
It is. We just got finished with a great big Paint the Towns event.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a lot of color on the wall in the gallery right now.
Well, let's talk about Paint the Town because that's happening right now. You can go down and see the paintings that were done throughout the area. Many were in Plymouth. I saw a lot of people sitting outside doing their painting and getting prepared for all of this, but now they are being hung.
Right.
And so that's going to be happening starting October 14th.
Well, we had the opening
That's
for
right.
the event.
That's right.
And we chose the winners. We had a judge, and he chose all the winners, and we gave out the prizes. And then there was a silent auction that evening, so several of the paintings were sold, including one to me.
Oh, good.
And but there are many left. And as I mentioned, the gallery is just bursting with beautiful fall colors. And you can come in and buy it now. There's a buy it now price on the wall, and you can take it with you, or you can leave it there until the end of the show, which will be November 18th.
Right.
So all of those paintings, less the ones that were sold, will be there until November 18th.
And you're doing another step forward here. On November 4th, you're actually going to have an art talk regarding the Paint the Town in Fall Colors.
Yes, as part of our new lecture series,
Yeah.
it's called Art Talk, and our education coordinator came up with the idea. And Art Talk will feature one or two artists every time our gallery changes. And this time it will be Dan Rizai and his daughter Julia Showers. And they're going to take you through the gallery, and you can, look at all the paintings, and he'll talk about some of the, different experiences that happened on Paint the Town that evening. And then he'll do a little demo, and we'll have some wine and maybe some snacks. So it'll be a nice afternoon.
Dan has been part of this from the beginning.
From the beginning, he's been participating.
Yes.
He took it over from Kitty Klisch when she passed away. A few years before that, she trained him, and he took it over, which we're very grateful for.
And it's going to be unique to have a father-daughter discussion, if you will, or
Yes.
speaking about how one art helps another one, growing up with an artist, and
Yes.
and then talk about all the paintings that are still hanging, and
That's right.
and give you a walking tour of the paintings that are still up.
And he's going to hit the highlights of the evening, too, because there were some funny things that happened. So.
It's always good to have local people who care so much about the
Yes,
arts.
and they are very passionate about their art, and all the artists love to be together and network. But this is for the general public to come in and just get a glimpse into what it's like to be an artist.
Yes, yes. Let's talk about something else that's just fantastic, that's new, and that's the veteran activity coming up. Explain what this all means.
Okay, so Julie Overby came up with the idea to honor our veterans and our active military personnel. And she put this show together. She and Carter Krasaniak are actually doing some co-directing. And she's, I don't know, I think there's over 30 people in the show now. So it's really wonderful, some great performers from the community. You'll recognize, all of the names when you see the poster. But they are singing songs from our past 245-year history of the United States. And it's just going to be a wide variety of music and some dancing, some musical pieces and singing, and you're going to love it. And it's just not for veterans.
That's what I was going to say, is the fact that, yes, we are pushing it because we want to have veterans there, because
Right.
there's a history for them to see it. But the music and the dancing and the fun don't have to be a veteran to go.
No, it's for everyone. And we are still selling tickets, right now, so you can come down to the Art Center and get a ticket. And if you would like to sponsor a vet, you can buy his or her ticket as well.
We've had people do that, go down to the Arts Center or call the Arts Center and say, I would like to donate X number of dollars for X number of tickets. And then some veterans will get a phone call and, or the American Legion will contact them and say,
Yes.
guess what? We have a few openings, let's go.
And the vets right now, what they can do is just call the Arts Center and choose which show they'd like to attend.
Let's talk about the shows. What are the dates on that?
The show dates are, they're going to be Saturday, November 5th at 7:30, and then Sunday at 2:30 on November 6th. And then
Right.
the following weekend on the 12th at 7:30 and the 13th at 2:30. And I'd like to just give a shout out to our sponsors, Sargento, the Kohler Foundation, Paul and Kathy Sartori, and the Wisconsin Arts Board. So, we just couldn't do these shows without our sponsorship
So
support.
you mark those 2 weekends, decide whether you want an evening event
Right.
or the afternoon event, but plan on going because the music will touch everyone. It won't just touch vets.
Julie gave me a couple numbers just as a sneak preview, and one of them, of course, was Snoopy and the Red Baron.
Yeah.
And gee, I wish I were back in the Army over there. And then, we're going to do the typical Armed Forces salute, where we'll have each branch of the military
Yeah.
stand up and take a bow.
It's going to be fantastic. I just think Julie deserves a lot of credit for
She does.
thinking this up and then following up by finding 30 artists that want to be part of this
Yes.
musical activity and then caring about the veterans. That's
Yes,
so special.
Right. And as a special treat that evening, we're going to give you a piece of dessert. So that's all included in your ticket. And it's just going to be a fun night.
It's going to be fantastic. That's for the veterans, and that's important. Yes. Another item that I wanted to bring up here is the fact that the Celtic Christmas concert's just around the corner.
Yes.
You're going to have a couple nights of Irish music and Christmas.
Well, for this particular show, we're going to be doing traditional, contemporary, and religious Christmas music.
Yep.
And it's not just Celtic music, it's the group performing is Celtic folk, so there will be some Celtic music, but you'll recognize a lot of the Christmas songs. And also there's going to be a Christmas quilt display by the Kettle Country Quilt Guild of Plymouth. So you can, take a peek at that as well.
Sure.
And those shows are going to be the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 26, and 27. So we've got a wide variety, 6 shows, and the 2 Saturday evening shows, you'll be able to order a dinner if you'd like to.
That's got to be new. I have not seen you or the Arts Center have a dinner concert before.
Right.
And that's going to be all new, and I hope it all works for you. Just fantastic.
Mill Home Supper Club is
Yep.
going to come in and cater it. So if you'd like to come to the dinner, we do have a cutoff. We have to give them a number early. So if you could order your ticket by November 12th, that would be appreciated.
And there are just 2 nights with
Two Saturday evening
two
shows.
Saturday evening shows
Right.
that have the meal.
Right.
Even though there's 6 shows, it's just the 2 Saturday night
Right.
ones.
And if you don't want to have the dinner that evening, you can still come to just the show.
Yeah.
We have the 2-tiered price.
But I hope people try it.
I think
Because,
it'll be
to
great.
have a meal and then this could start another game, if you will,
Come early, sit down, have
Yeah.
a cocktail, enjoy a dinner, and then a show.
Yeah, it's
Make it
going-
a date night.
That's it. It sounds perfect. Yes.
And once again, we're going to thank our sponsors, Bank First, Masters Gallery, and the Wisconsin Arts Board.
That's the Celtic Christmas concert. And so you have so many great things happening. And let's
do.
talk about one other, because we have the Plymouth Arts Center Singers coming up for their
Yes.
activities all about Christmas.
Right, it's called Colors of Christmas, directed by Barb Zerwas-Neisy. And I think we're going to have close to 50 singers again. It's a beautiful group, and we're so fortunate that people from our community and beyond want to come together and entertain our community.
And that's all happening on December 3rd and 4th.
It's a Saturday evening and a Sunday afternoon.
There's one evening concert at 7:30 and then on this Sunday, 2:30. And, but the PAC singers have been involved in so many different activities
They have.
and they're, I can name some people in it because I know many of them.
Sure.
But to have local talent of that high caliber, putting on a show for the
Yes.
Arts Center, you're so lucky.
We are very fortunate to have all these wonderful people
It is.
and our sponsors as well.
Yes. We have so many things happening, and so let's talk about one other item because you're going to be involved in the parade a little bit. The last one we're going to talk about is the fact that the Christmas parade, if you will, in Plymouth is November 25th.
Right.
It's always the Friday after Thanksgiving. It's been that way for years.
Yes.
And the Arts Center is going to be part of that, a bit ahead of the parade.
From 5 to 7 p.m., Liz Higgins, our education coordinator, will be offering families a chance to come in and make some ornaments. So just drop in and, she'll have a, variety there for you to work on and take it with you,
Yep.
and put it on your Christmas tree.
And even though there's a little ways off, but you're still planning on the drop.
Oh, yeah.
That's always, thank goodness they moved the drop. It's not midnight anymore
It's 10
because it's
o'clock.
hard for me to stay up that late. So you drop it now at
10 o'clock.
10 p.m.
Yes.
And so we're kind of playing ahead of Eastern time, if you will.
Yeah, and this year, if you want to mark your calendar, we're going to have some 50s music. So Too Cool will be joining us
Oh,
on
great.
New Year's Eve from 8:30 until midnight. So come on down and do a little dancing.
You have so many things planned for the holidays. I mean, everything from Celtic Christmas to the PAC Christmas to just so many things with the veterans. I mean, you've really put together a fall of activities.
We do have a busy schedule.
Yes.
In between there, we're going to open our holiday membership show, which will be a big party again at the Arts Center. It's free, and we invite everyone to come. That will be the first Friday in December. The
Okay.
show will actually open the day after Thanksgiving, but the party will be 1 week later on a Friday evening.
Okay. And that's, you've been doing that for years too.
Yes.
And that's always a good time.
It's supposed to be our annual meeting, but the business part of it is the awards ceremony.
Certainly,
So
certainly.
it's not boring or
Yeah.
anything like that, so.
Well, I certainly want to thank you for coming. I also should mention that I was down to the Arts Center, and I could tell everybody out there that you do rent the Arts Center out for activities.
Yes,
I was there for the 1982 class reunion.
fun time.
I was a teacher of those students in 1982.
Yeah.
Scott Richards and I were invited down by a couple of the students. They had their 40th, and it was a great time, and the Arts
Yes.
Center did a fantastic time in hosting it.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And so other people should know that if you have an activity that involves several people, contact the Arts Center and see if they would be the right venue.
Whether it would be a baby shower, a wedding shower, or even a wedding. We had a recital.
Yep.
Ann Sidlacek had her recital there last Sunday. And, piano recitals, all kinds of events.
Yep, and it's always available to the city of Plymouth. It's unbelievable.
If it fits our schedule, we're more than happy to
Yeah.
rent it out.
Well, thank you so much for being on. There's so many things happening in the world of the arts in Plymouth, and be part of what's happening in the arts. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
When we come back, I'm going to have the superintendent here talk about some things happening as we get further into the school year, so stay right with us. You're watching Action 14. Welcome back to Action 14. I have with me now Superintendent Dan Mello. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
We have so many things happening in October. First of all, we're at the point of where there were parent-teacher conferences are happening. So we're that far into our school year.
Yep.
We'll talk sports later, but we're about at the end of the fall sports season.
It's just amazing how quickly that goes.
Oh, isn't it? And then, but first of all, let's talk annual meeting. The annual meeting has been in October before the school board meeting for a number of years. And so, again, this year, the annual meeting will talk strictly about numbers.
Correct. This is a meeting where the community is invited to come and be part of the decision-making process. Now, at the annual meeting, if you come as a community member, you get to vote on. It's an advisory vote. It isn't the official vote, but you do get to advise the board as a member of the community as to whether you approve of or disapprove of the intended budget for the year. So it's a chance for that to occur. And so it's an interesting night. We do our annual meeting at our normal board meeting time of 5:30, but then we go through that process. A new president is appointed among any of the people that are there. Tends to usually be the board president because he knows the Robert's Rules of Order and does all those things. But then we go through and a big presentation about how schools are financed, how our particular school is financed, where we stand in terms of revenue and revenue limits, where we stand in terms of expenditures, different grants that we have coming into the school district, different expenditures going out for things like vouchers that don't come to our school district. So all of that is explained in quite a bit of detail.
Right.
And that is the main part of the meeting. And so it's a good chance for people to learn some of the intricacies of school finance. Because it isn't simple. It's fairly complex. You might think one school gets about the same as another school, but that's not true at all.
No.
Plymouth, for example, has a revenue limit of $10,000 per pupil. That's the max amount that we're allowed to spend on any student.
And it's just crazy that there are other schools that have 1,000 more per pupil.
How about some schools right down the road in Washington County that spend $21,000 per pupil, like at Nicolay, or Gibraltar spends $32,000 per pupil. We, at $10,000 per pupil, are the lowest in the state.
Right.
There are other schools that also are at $10,000, but anybody that levies to their possible revenue limit, of all those people that do that, we're in the bottom 10% of spending per pupil.
It is, and it's really sad that the real reason that's occurred is because we've always been very meticulous about our spending. There were other schools that they may have built a new school during a specific time when that could affect your revenue. And we never hit that quite right.
No. I wasn't here at that time.
No. But nevertheless, we're in the bottom 10% of what we can spend per pupil.
Correct.
Yep.
And there have been numerous iterations of government bodies and legislatures and administrations in the state that have looked at school finance. Because believe it or not, even though we've got those inequities, there are other states that have an even more inequitable funding formula. So I don't think there's ever any perfect funding formula, but my question is always, why are the kids at Nicolay worth $11,000 more than the students in Plymouth? And but changing the formulas is difficult because nobody just wants to add to just the low revenue districts on a regular basis. So if you take that one pot and you divide it differently, that creates winners and losers. And as a politician, nobody wants that because if you're the representative of the person in Nicolay, you don't want to lose any money.
Yep. And we're the lowest in, 35 years or so? I mean, we are...
Yeah, so some multiple things have occurred. We've been frozen at, our revenue limit has been the same for the last 3 years, going into this is our third year. So that means we're not allowed to spend any additional money from over these last 3 years, even though expenses continue to go up. It's creating this deficit that everybody is dealing with. But because we've been frozen and because home valuations in Plymouth have skyrocketed as they have in many other places, the state funding formula has ended up having a higher percentage of our total amount of revenue that we get in coming from the state. So therefore, the total amount of tax dollars that are needed from local property taxes to get to that revenue limit are quite a bit less.
Yes.
Therefore, our mill rate has dropped $1.47 from last year.
Right.
And I just want to caution people, because this won't last forever. We've been trending downward, but this is the lowest mill rate we've had, and by quite a bit, in 36 years. So at some point, it's going to go in the other direction. We're always happy. I'm happy when my taxes are dropping.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's going to have a different direction. And so just want to caution people that this is not a permanent process.
But now let's talk about some things that also have been happening, because you had at your meeting of the whole last week talk about surveys, questions that you may have answered or at least discussed. Some of those questions are rather interesting.
Right. So we sent out a very open-ended survey to families and community members at the behest of people that attend board meetings and also the board. One of our goals is to continue to work on our community outreach and communication with people, and transparency and all of that. So we wanted to know what people want to know about schools. And so school safety was a big category of questions that we were able to draw out of that. Student safety was a big category. And then curriculum was the largest category of questions that people were wondering about. And so going through all the questions and issues that people brought up, the board settled on taking all of them that could be answered in a frequently asked questions format, an FAQ format on our webpage, and trying to really drill down to the common questions that, if we gave an answer to, where do I find the curriculum, for example? Right in the frequently asked questions, it says, you find the curriculum on our webpage. Here's a link, and here's another link.
Right.
What about resources like Bridges, our math resource, or iReady, our assessment resource? Where do you find that? Well, it's right here and right here. Here are some examples. Here's what it looks like in first grade. And all linked right to that frequently asked questions page to get at a lot of the questions that people have.
Many of the questions are somewhat easy to answer because you just have to know where to look and and find exactly what you need to know or are asking about.
Right. There were a lot of questions that you can answer with a yes or a no.
Well,
And so we tried to say, in answering these 7 questions, here was the question, a generalization of a question, and the answer is yes. But then it's yes because of this, but we tried to keep it really short and succinct so that people could understand and feel good about what their question was. So,
yeah, it's always good because we don't have as many people come to school board meetings as we once did. COVID being one of the reasons, et cetera, et cetera. But answering the questions that the community has is important for the school to be able to be accountable.
Right, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And if there's a question circulating out there, or maybe there's a misunderstanding. There, many times a rumor gets started or somebody thinks something is going on, and we don't even, and all of a sudden we'll hear about it and we'll say, where's that coming from?
Right.
But if we ask, and if we continue to ask, which is our intended plan, we can, at least if they're simple questions for one person, we can answer those. But if they're general questions from lots of people, we can post those and then hopefully people feel like they've got a place to go,
Yep.
an easy place to go where they can get answers to commonly held questions.
Yeah, let's talk about some fun things that have been going on.
Yeah.
We got through homecoming. It was a great week, and no dramatic issues that we've had in the past. Knock on wood.
Knock
yeah.
on wood, not that we're aware of.
Yeah,
at
but
least.
it was a very fun week.
It was. I mean, the homecoming committee at the high school, it's a group of students, group of advisors. They always come up with fun activities. You know, the powder puff game, the volleyball, all the different tug of wars. Or this year it was volleyball versus staff volleyball game, and so all of that stuff for kids is fun. But one of the greatest things that has occurred over the last 10, 15 years now is the Hall of Fame. And we induct usually a couple of members into the Hall of Fame every year.
Right.
And so this year was Mr. Obler and Mr. Richards are both inducted. But it's really wonderful because we start the presentation in the auditorium, and those two inductees got a chance to get up and talk a little bit about their experiences, tour the schools, see all that stuff, but our kids get to hear their message.
Right.
And it's always different from each person. They're coming from different worlds, different lines of work.
And they went to school here in Plymouth
Yep,
more than 50 years ago.
right,
You know, they both did. They both actually graduated at the same time, 1969.
right.
And they talked about how school was for them and the accomplishments that they were able to take on or overcome some issues. And they always have a nice speech.
Right, and so we've got the whole auditorium filled with kids and sometimes parents, and it's kind of a nice community event, and I think kids really appreciate, and they really are interested in what our inductees have to say.
Yep.
Because it was 50 years ago, but they were sitting in that same auditorium
Yes.
and listening and seeing the world as a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old, and although a lot of time has passed, you're still a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
There's not much difference. And so I think our kids are really interested in what those inductees have to say. So I love that part of our homecoming
It
week
was a
every week.
beautiful day and a huge turnout for the parade. Just
Really
a
big.
huge turnout. And I'm just so happy that everything worked out. The weather was nice for everybody. And I'm glad we didn't have homecoming this week. We had a couple weeks ago when it was beautiful. And we've had some fall sports success that has made everybody happy this year.
Yep, we're into the playoff season now.
Yeah.
Well, close. Our soccer team is a conference champ, and they're a 2 seed, I think, going into the playoffs. Just saw the bus take off a little bit
Yep.
ago. The football season is wrapped up, and had a very successful football season.
Yep.
They're into the playoffs, and so there's a lot of really good things that happened over the course of a quick fall season.
And the beautiful part is that no health issues to speak of. Everything went smooth for all of our teams for the most part. And I think we're getting better at this.
Yeah, I think so. I think all the quarantining and all of that no longer happens. Although health issues, the football team this year for the first time had those large cushions that were applied to their helmets for practices.
Yep.
And so they're testing out to see whether that decreases any of those dings in the
Yep.
cranium.
Yep. But it's been a good year for athletics, and we're just around the corner from basketball season, wrestling season starting up.
Wrestling season.
Yes, I'm ready. But anyway, I certainly want to thank you for being on. I should tell everybody that the school board meetings are the third Tuesday of every month. The third Tuesday here in the Plymouth Amphitheater, starting at 5:30. Be
Yep.
part of what's happening in the community.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you again.
Well, thanks for having me.
And until I see you next time, I'll be seeing you on the radio. Bye-bye.